It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
Did anyone else feel the temperature drop in that courtroom yesterday? The man who built an empire on smooth talking and perfect timing couldn't hide his shock when Cassie took the stand. We've all seen Diddy work a room, but watching him lose control of his own expressions as his ex detailed their alleged relationship, that's the kind of unscripted reality TV no one expected. The whispers around the courthouse suggest this might just be the beginning of revelations that could permanently rewrite music industry history. What other secrets might come tumbling out before this is over?
She walked in there, Rachel. She had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
Let's talk about the Diddy we thought we knew, shall we? The champagne-popping, empire-building, white party-throwing mogul who transformed himself from talent scout to billionaire businessman. For years, we've watched him expand from music into vodka, fashion, and media without missing a beat. The ultimate success blueprint, right? But yesterday's testimony painted a portrait so dramatically different, it's like discovering there's been a doppelganger all along. While we were all admiring the glossy magazine covers and business announcements, Cassie was allegedly living in a parallel universe, one where that charismatic smile apparently hid something much darker behind closed doors. Smash that like button and subscribe if you believe the truth deserves to be heard. Every like and sub tells YouTube this story can't be buried. Let's blow this wide open and force the algorithm to wake people up. The juxtaposition couldn't be more striking. On one hand, the polished interviews, the philanthropy work, the A-list connections. On the other, Cassie's allegations of control, intimidation, and abuse that had seasoned courtroom veterans exchanging shocked glances. Are we finally seeing the man behind the marketing machine? The courtroom certainly seemed to think so. Is it possible to maintain two completely different personas for decades without anyone noticing? The industry insiders present at yesterday's proceedings now seem to be questioning everything they thought they knew about one of music's most powerful figures. And honestly, the revelations are just getting started. Diddy's demeanor cracks. Ever watched someone's carefully constructed persona crumble in real time? That's exactly what witnesses describe happening in that courtroom yesterday. Diddy strutted in surrounded by his legal dream team, looking ready for a GQ photo shoot rather than a serious legal proceeding. All confidence, all control, all business as usual. Fast forward 30 minutes into Cassie's testimony, an entirely different story. Multiple sources confirm his transformation was nothing short of dramatic. From composed mogul to visibly distressed defendant, faster than you can say bad boy for life. His legal team apparently couldn't file objections quickly enough as Cassie calmly shared her side of their relationship history. The courtroom whispers suggest Diddy isn't accustomed to being in environments he can't control. Think about it. When was the last time someone spoke about him without his PR team filtering every word? When was the last press interview where he didn't set the terms? Yesterday, that protective bubble burst spectacularly. Observers couldn't help noticing his increasingly agitated behavior, the constant note passing to lawyers, the fidgeting with his immaculate suit, the color literally draining from his face as Cassie spoke. One insider described it as watching someone realize they're not the most powerful person in the room for the first time in decades. Is this what happens when the music stops and reality takes center stage? Let's be honest. We've all wondered what celebrities are really like when the cameras stop rolling. Yesterday's courtroom drama might be giving us that unfiltered glimpse behind the velvet rope, and the contrast between public image and private behavior couldn't be more stark. And trust me, what came next had everyone in that room holding their breath. Escalating allegations and abuse claims. So what exactly triggered Diddy's visible meltdown? As Cassie's testimony continued through the afternoon, it became crystal clear why the mogul couldn't maintain his famous cool. The allegations she was about to share would potentially reshape not just this case, but possibly the entire narrative of his decades-long career. The man who's always controlled his own story was suddenly faced with a version he couldn't edit, produce, or spin his way out of. And let me tell you, what happened next left the entire courtroom speechless.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yet, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and said, and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Remember when Cassie first signed with Bad Boy Records, the fresh-faced 19-year-old model with music dreams meeting the already established industry titan? Yesterday, she pulled back the curtain on what allegedly happened after those glossy press announcements and music video releases. Starting with smaller details that built into a crescendo of serious allegations, Cassie methodically painted a picture of their relationship that had jurors visibly reacting. The power imbalance wasn't just about career opportunities. It allegedly became the foundation for a pattern of control that escalated over time. What makes her testimony so compelling isn't just what she's saying, it's how she's saying it. Court observers note she's remarkably composed, chronological, and specific. No vague allegations or dramatic flourishes, just detailed accounts that apparently caught Diddy's legal team completely unprepared. First came allegations of professional control, how her music career allegedly became leverage in their personal relationship. Then came claims about monitoring her friendships and social activities. But what she revealed next about alleged surveillance and isolation tactics had several jurors leaning forward in their seats. Is this the case that finally pulls back the curtain on how power can be allegedly weaponized in the entertainment industry? Tomorrow's testimony might just answer that question. Here's where things take a turn into territory that sounds more like a psychological thriller than a celebrity relationship. According to court records, Cassie claimed Diddy didn't just want to know where she was. She alleges he employed actual tracking technology on her devices to monitor her movements in real time. Think about that for a second. How many relationships have you been in where your partner could allegedly tell you exactly where you'd been, who you'd seen, and how long you'd stayed without you telling them? Cassie testified that this wasn't just occasional jealousy, but a systematic pattern of surveillance that left her feeling constantly watched. Perhaps most disturbing were her claims about gradual isolation from supportive friends and family. According to her testimony, one by one, her closest connections were allegedly severed until her world essentially narrowed narrowed to Diddy and those who wouldn't challenge his authority in her life. Sound familiar? Experts in the courtroom gallery whispered that these are classic control tactics, just playing out on a celebrity scale with private jets and penthouses as the backdrop. Diddy couldn't seem to sit still during this portion of testimony. Court observers noted the judge had to warn him multiple times about his reactions, which were becoming increasingly difficult to hide from the attentive jury. Is this the behavior of someone hearing fabrications, or someone realizing their private behavior is being exposed to public scrutiny? Then came what courtroom sources are calling the phone moment, when Cassie produced preserved text messages and emails that directly contradicted years of careful PR statements. The look on Diddy's face reportedly spoke volumes. Had he assumed those messages were long gone? What other evidence might she have preserved that his team hasn't prepared for? The answer would soon send shockwaves through the courtroom: physical assault and hotel incident. If the courtroom atmosphere was tense before, witnesses say it became absolutely electric when Cassie began describing alleged physical confrontations. Her testimony detailed incidents ranging from being thrown against walls during arguments to being pushed downstairs at a luxury Miami property. Most disturbing were allegations of choking incidents that she claims only stopped when she began to lose consciousness. Court reporters noted several jurors' visible reactions: one older woman wiping away tears, a male juror unable to look at Diddy after particularly graphic descriptions. Is this the moment the case transformed from he said, she said into something much more substantial? Even the most jaded entertainment reporters admitted they weren't prepared for the level of specific detail in Cassie's testimony. But all of this served merely as prelude to the hotel incident revelation that would potentially change everything about this case.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice, or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What do the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in a relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night. Those 7 words, delivered barely above a whisper, apparently caused the entire courtroom to collectively hold its breath. Cassie was about to reveal an incident at the Four Seasons Hotel that somehow never leaked to tabloids, never appeared on gossip sites, never became TMZ fodder, despite happening in one of the world's most famous hotel chains. How does something this significant stay buried in our 24/7 social media world? According to Cassie, through a combination of fear for her safety, her career, and fear that no one would believe her over someone with Diddy's power and connections. Does this explain why so many industry stories stay hidden until years later? The courtroom seemed to be grappling with exactly that question. The Four Seasons Hotel incident. According to Cassie's testimony, what began as standard industry networking at an after-party took a dark turn when Diddy allegedly spotted her speaking with another music executive. Court transcripts reveal her describing how his demeanor transformed instantly, from charming host to someone unrecognizable, allegedly grabbing her arm with enough force to leave marks while maintaining his public face for others at the event. The most shocking allegation? Cassie testified that Diddy physically dragged her through the hotel's main lobby toward the elevators while she cried and struggled, creating enough of a scene that hotel security actually approached them. But, and this detail had jurors exchanging glances, the security guard allegedly backed off immediately upon recognizing Diddy, asking only him if everything was okay before walking away. "He didn't even ask me if I was okay," Cassie testified, in what courtroom observers called one of the most powerful moments of the day. Is this how celebrity power operates in real time? Does fame create a protective bubble that even security professionals hesitate to penetrate? Then came visual evidence nobody expected. Cassie's legal team presented photographs she had taken of herself the morning after the alleged incident, showing bruises, a split lip, and marks around her neck. These weren't professional photos, but shaky self-portraits taken in a bathroom mirror, which somehow made them even more impactful. The question hanging in the courtroom: if this incident happened at one of the world's most prestigious hotel chains, how many other alleged incidents occurred without witnesses or documentation? The jury seemed to be wondering the same thing. Courtroom reactions to evidence. Have you ever seen a defense team realize they're completely unprepared? Sources say that's exactly what happened when these photos appeared on courtroom screens. Diddy's attorneys launched into a frantic series of objections, arguing the photos weren't properly authenticated, that they could represent injuries from any source, that they should have been submitted during discovery. The judge systematically rejected every objection, allowing the images to be displayed. The jury's reactions told the story better than any legal argument could. One female juror physically covered her mouth. Two male jurors couldn't look at the images. Another juror's hand visibly shook as she took notes. This hotel incident revelation apparently blindsided everyone. It hadn't appeared in previous filings or statements. Diddy's legal team seemed to have no prepared response because they apparently had no idea it was coming. Is this the moment when legal strategy meets unpredictable reality? As Cassie continued describing the alleged hotel room destruction, a thrown champagne bottle missing her by inches, a broken lamp, an overturned table, a hole punched through the bathroom door, courtroom observers couldn't help noticing the contrast between these allegations and the carefully curated public image Diddy has maintained for decades. Most disturbing? Cassie claimed he prevented her from leaving the room for over 48 hours, confiscating her phone and threatening serious consequences if she tried contacting anyone. When this part of testimony concluded, every eye in that courtroom turned toward Diddy. His reaction would become the defining moment of the trial and potentially reshape his entire legacy. What happened next left the courtroom stunned.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? They said, she said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person. But even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she said she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
Diddy's public persona versus courtroom breakdown. We've all seen Diddy work a room, the smooth confidence, the charismatic smile, the perfect sound bites. But yesterday showed a side of him that no carefully orchestrated reality show or curated social media account has ever revealed. As Cassie's testimony reached its most damaging points, courtroom sources described something no one expected from the famously composed mogul, a complete unraveling in full public view. Seasoned court reporters who've covered hundreds of celebrity cases said they'd never witnessed anything comparable from someone so media-trained and image-conscious. The transformation was apparently so dramatic that people in the gallery were exchanging shocked glances. Who was this man? The confident industry titan who arrived that morning had morphed into someone visibly shaken, seemingly struggling to process what was happening as his carefully constructed narrative crumbled around him. With each new allegation, observers noted he physically diminished in his chair. His legal team appeared increasingly concerned about his reactions. One source, positioned directly behind them, reported seeing a lawyer repeatedly place a restraining hand on Diddy's arm, attempting to calm his visible agitation. At one point, an attorney allegedly passed him a hastily written note reading, "Stay calm," in capital letters. The question on everyone's mind, is this what happens when someone used to controlling every aspect of their public image suddenly finds themselves in a situation they can't manage? The answer came moments later in a way no one anticipated. Diddy disrupts the court. Just how bad did it get? According to multiple witnesses, Diddy actually slammed his fist against the table when Cassie described an alleged incident at his Hamptons property, so forcefully that it sounded like a gunshot echoing through the courtroom. The judge immediately halted proceedings with a warning that shocked everyone present. "Mr. Combs, if you cannot control yourself, I will have you removed from this courtroom." Can you imagine? The man who's hosted presidents and royalty at his famous white parties, potentially facing ejection from his own trial like an unruly spectator. Throughout Cassie's testimony, witnesses observed him continuously shaking his head and mouthing, "That's not true," whenever she described particularly damaging allegations. Court veterans noted this as a serious tactical error. Jurors can see these reactions and they don't typically play well. Does this suggest someone unused to environments where their reactions aren't carefully managed? The power dynamic shift was apparently palpable. For years, insiders claimed Diddy controlled virtually every aspect of their relationship. Now, Cassie was sharing her version of events in a forum where he couldn't interrupt, couldn't have security remove her, couldn't filter her words through his PR team. He simply had to listen as years of alleged private behavior became public record. But if spectators thought they'd seen the extent of his reaction, what happened next apparently left even the most seasoned courtroom veterans speechless. The breaking point was coming, and no one saw it coming. Cassie's secret evidence and final blow. The true turning point arrived when Cassie began discussing alleged threats. According to court transcripts, she testified that Diddy had supposedly threatened her family members if she ever revealed what allegedly occurred between them. Then came what courthouse sources are calling the moment. Cassie revealed she had preserved audio recordings of these alleged threats, which her attorney proceeded to play for the entire court. That's when something unprecedented happened. Multiple witnesses confirmed Diddy suddenly stood from his chair and shouted directly at Cassie, "You know that's not how it happened." It reportedly took 3 attorneys to physically restrain him and force him back into his seat as he continued attempting to speak over the recording playing throughout the courtroom. The judge immediately called for recess, but courtroom observers say the damage was irreversibly done. The jury, reporters, court officials, everyone witnessed a side of Diddy that his publicity team has kept carefully hidden for decades. Is this outburst what happens when carefully constructed public personas collide with private realities? As security personnel escorted him out for the recess, witnesses described someone barely recognizable from the polished figure who entered that morning. But what happened when court resumed would take the revelations to an entirely new level that no one saw coming. Celebrity messages and collapsing support. Just when the courtroom thought the bombshells had reached their peak, Cassie revealed evidence that nobody anticipated, not the judge, jury, or especially Diddy and his team. For years, she'd apparently been quietly building an archive of evidence documenting their relationship. Text messages, emails, photographs, all preserved in multiple secure locations beyond Diddy's reach. Smart move or paranoid precaution? Based on yesterday's revelations, perhaps a bit of both. The courtroom reportedly went completely silent when Cassie mentioned possessing text messages from other celebrities who had allegedly witnessed Diddy's behavior firsthand. These weren't peripheral figures either. According to court transcripts, they included some of his closest friends and business associates who had occupied his inner circle for years. The million-dollar question: who exactly sent these messages? What did they see? And why did didn't they speak up sooner? The whispers around the courthouse suggest some very famous names might be dragged into this case before it's over. Diddy's expression apparently revealed everything. Gallery observers described him looking physically ill when Cassie mentioned these celebrity witnesses. His legal team immediately jumped up with loud objections, demanding a sidebar with the judge. Are these the actions of attorneys confident in their case, or a desperate attempt to prevent damaging evidence from reaching the jury? After reviewing the messages privately, the judge returned and overruled all objections, deeming them highly relevant and permitting their entry into evidence. That ruling alone reportedly caused Diddy to bury his face in his hands, the question hanging in the air: just how damaging would these messages prove to be? Celebrity reactions and Diddy's own words. One by one, messages from recognizable industry names appeared on courtroom screens. According to transcripts, a major rapper had texted Cassie after a Grammy after-party, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." A female pop star had apparently written, "I've known him for 15 years and I've never seen him act like that with anyone else. This isn't normal. Please call me." Most devastating were messages from a longtime producer who had collaborated with Diddy for decades. "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." These messages directly contradicted Diddy's public statements that nobody had ever witnessed inappropriate behavior, that these were private matters being distorted by Cassie. Now the court could see evidence suggesting industry insiders had not only witnessed concerning incidents, but had reached out offering assistance. Then came what court observers called the final nail: Diddy's own alleged messages. Screenshots displayed texts where he appeared to acknowledge incidents. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Another attributed to him read, "Whatever you need to make this right, just name it. New car, new apartment, whatever you want." A third message thread revealed what looked like attempts at financial settlements. "My lawyer can draw up the paperwork tomorrow. 2 million, clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years." As these private exchanges became public record, something fascinating happened in the gallery behind him that speaks volumes about how quickly celebrity support can evaporate when the tide turns. Diddy's isolation. Have you noticed how celebrities always arrive at court surrounded by an entourage of supporters? Yesterday morning was no exception. Diddy entered flanked by associates positioned strategically behind him in a visual show of solidarity. But as these damaging messages were read aloud, courtroom observers noted something remarkable. Members of that same entourage began quietly slipping out of the courtroom one by one. By the time this testimony segment concluded, Diddy sat virtually alone at his table except for his legal team. Is there any more telling visual metaphor for how quickly celebrity support structures can collapse? The power of these unexpected revelations apparently transformed the entire atmosphere of the proceedings. The man who walked in that morning as music's untouchable king departed looking thoroughly defeated. The most remarkable aspect? This was only day 2 of what promises to be weeks of testimony. What other evidence might emerge? Which other celebrities might be drawn into this increasingly explosive case? And can any reputation, even one as carefully maintained as Diddy's, withstand this level of scrutiny? Cassie Ventura didn't just share her story yesterday. She potentially rewrote the entire narrative of one of music's most powerful figures with evidence that can't be easily dismissed as simply "he said, she said." As courthouse sources whisper about what tomorrow might bring, one thing seems increasingly clear. This case could permanently reshape not just how we view Diddy, but how we understand power dynamics in the entertainment industry as a whole. The question isn't simply whether he'll prevail legally anymore. It's whether his carefully crafted empire can survive what's being revealed day by day in that courtroom. And tomorrow's testimony promises even more bombshells that could forever change how the world sees the man once considered music's untouchable king. Stay tuned. This story is just getting started.